What's up, everyone? Welcome into Scoop City. I'm Chase Daniel. We're talking Eagles, we're talking Chiefs and Cowboys and the impact of coaching changes on today's show. And don't forget to like and subscribe for the latest scoop. We respond, or at least I do, not Diana, she's not working right now, to all the YouTube comments, to all the social media comments. Interact with us. We really appreciate you guys. National NFL writer for The Athletic, Mike Jones, back on the show today. Micah Parsons, also back. Well, almost. Parsons is set to return to the Cowboys, and the source, you guessed it, Micah Parsons himself. Here what the Cowboys pass rusher had to say about the latest contract talks and reuniting with the team. Meanwhile, the Chiefs fell one game short of the historic three-peat, but could that loss lead to an even more Super Bowl wins? What Mahomes had to say about his motivation. But we start in Indy, where there's breaking news, and Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson is out indefinitely. Ouch, after injuring his throwing shoulder. Here's what we're hearing around the league. Colts head coach Shane Steichen telling reporters Tuesday that Anthony Richardson injured his AC joint, the same one he did his rookie year, and is now out indefinitely. Richardson already dealt with injuries his first two seasons. Mike, I guess the quarterback competition with Daniel Jones may be over already?
Yeah, what's that saying? The best ability is availability. And
So true.
here we are with Anthony Richardson. Dude looks like a physical specimen, but cannot stay healthy. And the door, he was supposed to have a little bit of a leg up, but now he just completely opens the door. Daniel Jones taking all the first team reps. He might wind up running away with this job.
Yeah, so a little bit of background. The injury is to Richardson's AC joint, obviously in his right arm, where he is a thrower of the football, a quarterback. He previously had season-ending surgery on in October of 2023, his rookie season. Richardson reported pain in the AC joint after an OTA practice last Thursday. He has not practiced since, and today or Thursday is the last day of voluntary OTAs. My takeaway from the Anthony Richardson injury, again, is, look, he didn't play a lot, Mike, in college. He didn't have a lot of reps going into the NFL, obviously drafted really high. The dude, like you said, is a physical specimen. His body has never seen and will not see a season without injury. This is just sort of how he is, most notably as a runner, right? When he tapped himself out, he's got concussion. I think he's dealt with concussions before. He's dealt with the shoulder injuries. And it's got to be a little bit of a sign for the Colts to be like, hey, I'm glad they went out and got Daniel Jones. They paid him a lot of money. They know it was going to be an open competition. I feel bad for Anthony Richardson, though, because he never really materialized, because he's always been held back a little bit by the injuries. My thing is, like, when you watch him on the film, Mike, he can throw the football a quarter mile, right? He's not accurate with the football. He's never really been a high completion percentage thrower. And if you look, they've tried to build this offense like they did around Jalen Hurts when Shane Steichen was in Philly, and that's why they wanted a runner, because they felt like he could do it. He's been sort of up and down. What's your takeaway in general about the whole situation that Indy's going? Because remember, and look, I'm sure you're a listener of this show. We've talked about it with Diana and I. Indianapolis Colts, Shane Steichen, GM Chris Ballard, they are squarely on the hot seat going into this year, and now potentially without their starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's not a good situation, but I think that this is a cautionary tale that you can't get so smitten by what you see physically out of a prospect when you don't have much of a body of work to go on. Like you said, he hasn't played a whole lot. It reminds me, it's different, but the Trey Lance situation where, he had all the physical gifts, San Francisco. He didn't pan out there, and now he's in Dallas. Doesn't look like he's going to pan out there. But now you have a guy who, yes, like you said, he can throw the ball, 200 yards. He can't hit it in the short range. The mid-range game, he can't do that. But then I just wonder mentally, we saw, like you said, he tapped himself out of a game because he was tired. Obviously, you got a shoulder injury. You can't throw, then okay. But again, what is he doing to take care of his body? What is his routine? From what I hear, he's a guy that is likable guy. He even goes downtown to play basketball at the Y down there in
Yeah.
Indy. But okay, what is his offseason regime to try to fortify this body of his? And again, if you can't stay on the field, this really hurts his chances of being anything. And so I don't know that Daniel Jones is really the answer, but Daniel Jones is a guy that, at least hey, he's going to be on the field. He's going to execute. He's had some injuries, but when he's there, he's not a game changer, but he's going to take care of the football for the most part. Might not light it up, but they know that he's going to be on the field. Whereas Anthony Richardson, it's really going to be guesswork.
Yeah, and look, when Ballard and Shane Steichen decided to bench Anthony Richardson for a couple of different reasons, they say it was play. I think it was. I mean, I know it was. Hey, he needed to grow up as an NFL athlete. He needed to grow up as an NFL quarterback, and everything that we heard, he gained his starting job back. He was able to move along, and I had heard from the team that he had made pointed progress in that, for not only like what it is being a quarterback on the field, but all the stuff off the field. This really hurts his time there for a couple reasons. My main reason is because these reps and OTAs and training camp are so extremely valuable, especially when it comes to a guy who has not played a lot of touchdowns. Okay, he's thrown for 8 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, and he had a 47.7% completion percentage. He's 8 and starter. He's 8 and 7 as a starter through 2 seasons. So now Daniel Jones jumps into it. What can you expect in a Shane Steichen, Daniel Jones type offense? I know Daniel can actually move pretty well. He's got some wheels on him. What do you see this offense becoming?
Well, I still think that they're going to have to rely heavily on the run, just because of the fact. I mean, look what Daniel Jones was with the Giants. I can't remember what the streak was, but he did not throw a lot of touchdown passes
Yeah.
there. But if you have a strong run game, if you use a little bit of his mobility, Brian Daboll is creative offensive mind and couldn't get much out of him. Maybe Shane Steichen can tweak some things, but I think that they have a better offensive line. They probably have a little bit more to work with than what he had there, outside of having Saquon Barkley for the start of his career there when Saquon was healthy. But you've got a good running back. So again, I think he'll be asked to basically manage the offense. I don't think that he's going to be asked to put a cape on or anything like that, because that just isn't how he's built. If he can just take care of the football, put the ball in the hands of the playmakers, and they rely on their defense, which they've kind of revamped, and they're waiting for some guys to get healthy, but they're hoping they can lean on them, and there's questions there. But if he can do that things, he gives them a chance at least, because that defense has been, pretty solid.
Yeah, and when you look at the Colts and Chris Ballard's tenure, before we move on to Micah, it's one of those things where it's going to be defined as the quarterback, right? They had Andrew Luck, and I was at the game. I was playing on the field in the game that Andrew Luck retired. I remember seeing at halftime all these phones lighting up, and everyone is just like, oh my gosh, he literally retired mid-game, or it broke mid-game. And ever since then, they've been searching for quarterbacks. You go back to
They got Philip Rivers for a little while, right?
Philip Rivers. It was Matt Ryan. It was Carson Wentz. It was a lot of different guys that had played, and they tried to fix the quarterback position, and they haven't drafted. Look, if they don't win this year, you would imagine that it's going to be really difficult for Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard to keep their jobs. All right, no Micah Parsons at OTAs for Dallas, but I have a good source that says he will be at mandatory minicamp. The source, Micah himself, saying he hasn't missed a minicamp in 4 years. Even though the contract is not done, I have teammates and a playbook. I'm preparing as if I will be on the field on the first week of camp, but it's in the owner's hands. That's the one I want to underline and talk about in a second. I'm ready to win a Super Bowl. Mike, what are your takeaways from this, and what in the world is taking Jerry so long to get a deal done with one of the brightest stars in the NFL?
Okay, I think that Micah Parsons is a good teammate and a good leader, and he wants these guys to know that, hey, look, I am committed to you guys, and he knows that, okay, we got a new defensive coordinator. I need to get some reps and understanding of this system, and so that's why he said, I've got teammates and I got a playbook. He wants to be on the field at the start of training camp, but he's basically putting the pressure on Jerry Jones. Come on, get this thing done. But I think that Jerry probably loves this, because we see him do this every year. They've got a big name player who needs his contract extended, and they have the opportunity, and he could save some money by getting it done, but he drags it out,
Yes.
and then somebody at that position resets the market. And so, what does Jerry have to do? Reset the market. But I think that that's why he does it. He drags it out. He loves being talked about. He loves the Cowboys being at the center of controversy. And then, okay, last minute, he's going to go ahead and break the bank, make Micah Parsons the highest paid non-quarterback player in the history of the league, and then it'll be okay. But it's going to be unnecessary when it could have been done before. But Micah knows this, and that's why he said it's in the owner's hands. And so it's basically like, hey, I'm doing what I got to do. Jerry, come to the
Yeah.
table, man. It's on you.
Exactly. He's putting the onus back on the owner. And look, receiver CeeDee Lamb missed almost all of training camp before signing in August. Really last minute. Dak Prescott's deal was finalized the day of the season opener, but he did not miss a practice. Cowboys begin their mandatory minicamp June 10th. Parsons will likely get over that $40 million mark that Myles Garrett has set. And when you said about contracts, it made me think Dallas, and I did some math, Dallas has cost themselves on the Micah Parsons contract a total of about $6 million per year. So it could be upwards to $25 million more throughout the course of the contract by waiting when they technically could have done it the first day of the league year, because we see Myles Garrett got $40 million a year. We saw Danielle Hunter get 35.6. We saw Max Crosby get 35.5. We saw Chris Jones even get 32. Now he's going to surpass all those. I just don't understand the way of thinking when you are literally, I understand like he's a businessman, but money it comes down to. And you have to imagine that Micah's looking at stars like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. They've got to be having conversations about what it was like for them, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think that he's playing this out just the way that they did, where he's like, look, I'm going to be patient. And I again, Jerry, yes, he's a businessman, but I don't think that he cares about saving money. He wants to do it on his time. It always seems like it comes back and bites him. But I think that he kind of likes the fact that, oh, hey, all the intrigue. He doesn't have victories and playoff runs and Super Bowls to capture the imagination and the attention of the American football fans. And so he's like, okay, I've got some drama here, and I think that's part of it. And so he'll get it done, and then he'll, thump his chest and be proud that, hey, we made our guy the highest paid player at his position here. They just better
And
hope
yeah.
that, this thing. I mean, because obviously Cincinnati's got Trey Hendrickson, who's another pass rusher, who wants to get paid, but if they get it done, then it's just going to bump it up. They're going to bump it up. And Micah
Well,
Parsons is really smart by waiting.
he is smart by waiting, because you missed another one, TJ Watt, right? So
That's
TJ
right.
Watt, Trey
Yes.
Hendrickson.
Yes.
So I wonder if your Micah's camp, who's going to sign first, right? Because TJ Watt, is it Micah? Because I know Micah probably has a superstar player. He wants to be the highest paid player in NFL and defensive history, and I agree that he deserves to be that way. And the salary cap keeps going up, but eventually, and I think Mike is playing this from a leadership perspective, and I think he's playing it in the court of public opinion excellent, because he's sort of putting the onus on the owner, and he's showing that leadership like, hey man, like,
Yeah.
I want to be there in phase one, because phase one does not include on-field stuff. Phase 2 and 3, phase like mini camp, it's another thing. It's like he's not going to practice. He's going to show up because he doesn't want to get fined $100,000. It's an interesting situation, but if you're Micah's camp, how do you play this? Because Micah wants to get it done before the season. It sounds like TJ Watt and the Steelers, they're not in a super big hurry.
Right. Right. No. And then the thing is, their owner has already said that, hey, we're going to take care of him. It's just a matter of when. So it's a tricky spot for if you're Micah. Are we going to see a hold in, which I think CeeDee Lamb did that, where he reported for training camp, but just didn't practice. We've seen some guys do that, but with Micah saying like, I got teammates, I've got a playbook, he wants to be out there. And again, he's trying to make sure, they're making sure he comes off as supportive and, committed. But again, I bet you, like you said, he's talked to Dak, and they're like, hey man, just like, you know, do the right thing. It's gonna take, just be
Yeah.
patient. We know old Jerry. You know how it is. He's gonna get it done. Just keep on playing it like you are, man. We understand this is business. We've been there.
Totally agree. So the Chiefs Let's move on to them. They're looking to bounce back from their Super Bowl loss, which would have been a three-peat, first in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes talked to reporters this week at OTAs about how the loss is just added motivation. Let's take a listen.
It's hard. I mean, I feel like I focus every year because I know how special a run that we're on, and how many years left I'll have with all these great players and a great team. Every team's different, and you don't want to miss an opportunity. But I mean, obviously, when you lose a Super Bowl, I think there's sometimes in those workouts where you may be a little tired. You have that extra added motivation to finish even harder, finish even stronger. And I mean, I think it'll be good for us at the end of the day. I mean, obviously, looking back, you want to win the game, but a lot of these guys hadn't ended the season on a loss that are on this team now. So I'm sure they'll be motivated to go back out there and try to find a way to get to the Super Bowl and win it this year.
Mike, interesting words. I liked what he said. And teams should fear the Chiefs if they need extra motivation from Patrick Mahomes. Are the Chiefs still the team to fear in the AFC, though?
Yes, I think so. Because who has really closed the gap on them? So Buffalo, maybe, but they still have some questions. We talked about them on Monday. Yes, they've got Boza, but how much are they going to have of him? They're also, they've got James Cook that they're, trying to take care of that. Baltimore, they didn't really meet their wide receiver, depth need. They obviously DeAndre Hopkins, he's kind of getting a little older. They drafted a pass rusher. I don't see anybody who really leapfrogged the Chiefs. And the other thing about this is listening to Patrick Mahomes, I kind of get that feeling, kind of that Kobe mentality where it's like, oh, he's motivated, he's locked in, he's elite level competitor. And this is what, I mean, he was already elite. He didn't need any more, but now he's got, and he's talking about, look, and he's getting his guys to buy in when you're tired and you can't do that last rep. Then you remember about that loss. But I think that he's going to be maniacal in his approach to this. He is going to make sure that they come out and that they are playing at their best level yet. Because look, he's 29. It's not like he's like getting
That's
old.
crazy.
He hasn't even turned 30 yet. And so, he's going to just be as hungry as ever. Look out, everybody.
Yeah, I think they are still the team to fear. And I say this because the Chiefs have won so many games. They're the lowest point in their career they've reached the AFC Championship game. 7 years as a starter, 7 AFC Championship games. He's played, and the Chiefs have played in 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. So at least, at minimum, they are getting back to the AFC Championship game. And if you want to say the Bills, which I would say absolutely the Bills are probably the team that have closed the gap a little bit on the Chiefs, they can't beat them in the playoffs. Josh Allen has lost 4 of 5 in postseason games to Patrick Mahomes. 4 of his 5 last exits have been to Patrick Mahomes. He has not beat them in the postseason when it matters the most. And look, failure to me, it breeds toughness and it calluses your roster. An interesting quote in that article that I read about it, because I wanted to read more up on Patrick Mahomes and his mindset, and obviously know a lot of those guys over at the Chiefs. The biggest thing he said is, if you've been on that team going into year 3, your season, if you've been with the Chiefs for 3 years, has not ended in a loss, Mike. They don't know what it is to fail. And that's what's crazy to me. And I think that's sort of him saying, hey, I've lost 2 Super Bowls, the Bucs and this one, and the losses always end up becoming, I don't want to say blessing in disguise, but it's like, take the Bucs one, for example. They ended up saying, hey, both of our tackles need help. What did Brett Veach do? He went out, he got new tackles, he got an all-new, brand-new offensive line, and now 2021, they made it to the conference championship game, didn't make it all the way, but I do believe there's something to be said about, and I think it's so good for young quarterbacks to watch sort of the motivation for Mahomes, because like you said, man, he's 29. Now let's talk about the biggest issue I thought for them last year was their left tackle position. Did the Chiefs solve their biggest issues?
I think that they did. And they did it both ways. They went into free agency, and drafted. Now it was Trent Williams' backup. He didn't play a whole lot, but when Trent Williams was hurt, he played well. And then they went off and drafted, so they got a veteran and you got a rookie that you have at that position. We'll see how it plays out, which one of them winds up starting, but that depth issue is taken care of there That was like you said, that was a big problem in the Super Bowl. That year, all of last year, was basically a patchwork quilt where they were rotating guys in and out at left tackle because nobody could get the job done. Well, they saw what happened where the Eagles just pinned back their ears and feasted on them. And Patrick Mahomes had never, I mean, again, he was running for his life in that Super Bowl loss to the Bucks, but
Yeah.
that was bad. They did not cross midfield, I don't think, until the third quarter. So they went out and they addressed that. They also punched up their defense, getting some more young and versatile playmakers to go and beef up their defensive front. They also added some skill position players, some running backs, wide receiver, versatile type guys. So they went out and made sure that they have what they need. And so I think that, yeah, this roster, there was no complacency there. They addressed it. They were
Yeah.
able to look in the mirror and assess, okay, yeah, we've got to do better. And they went out and did that. So that's why I think you've improved the roster and you've got a hungry Patrick Mahomes, and it all breeds. If you talk to the guys there, he's the tone setter. It's contagious. And even he talked about Travis Kelce. He was asked about them. He's like, look,
Yeah.
nobody knows of his last year. He said he does not seem like a guy who's beat down, who's old, who's tired. He seems as hungry as ever. And so, good Lord,
Yeah.
that's all
No,
the
for
AFC
sure.
needs.
And supposedly the Travis Kelce had cut weight. They get Rashee Rice back. But just a little context. So the reason why we say it's offensive line, obviously we know that, but Mahomes was sacked a career high 36 times in 2024 and sacked a single game most in his career 6 times in the Super Bowl. So they went out, like you were saying, Jalen Moore from the 49ers. They drafted Josh Simmons. They moved their second round draft pick last year, Kingsley Sumatia, to inside guard. So they do have a lot of talent there. Before we move on, do you think the AFC West is a one-team race still, or do you think Chargers, Denver, all playoff teams, do you think they've closed the gap a little bit? I know the Denver Broncos specifically have played them well over the years.
Yeah, Denver has, and I expect that Bo Nix is going to take another step forward. They also went out and they got J.K. Dobbins, so their run game should be a little better. I do think that they've maybe shrunk the gap. I don't think that anybody has overtaken them. I just
Yeah.
I don't think that you can. It would take a big loss of one of their most important players to be able to do that. And again, they're improving, both them and the Chargers, but I don't think they've overtaken them.
9 straight, I believe, AFC West titles. It started when I was in my last year in Kansas City in 2015. So pretty amazing for them. All right, coming up, could be a Texas-sized problem in Houston. CJ Stroud not throwing at OTAs. What's going on there? Why the team isn't concerned and why maybe they should be. That's next on Scoop City. All right, welcome back to Scoop City. No throwing for CJ Stroud at OTAs. D'Amico Ryan says it's just shoulder soreness and they are being overly cautious. But they do have a new OC in town. Bobby Slowick is out. They hired Nick Caley from the Rams. No OC experience there either. Mike, I know you have an amazing article out on The Athletic. It's out now about these new offensive schemes. How is this all going to play out, and how does it impact Stroud's development?
Yeah, so there are 15 new offensive coordinators around the league, and so
Jeez.
we're looking at, okay, what's one pressing question for each one of them? And the real question about the Texan situation is, can Nick Caley help him take another step forward? Can he fix this unit? Because look, they thought that they had the next hot offensive mind in Bobby Slowick. D'Amico Ryans went back to his roots in San Francisco, got Bobby Slowick to come with him, Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. He looked great their first year together, CJ Stroud and Slowick. And then last year was like he really didn't develop a counterpunch. And so not only did they have offensive line problems, but he wasn't able to figure out how to mask any of those deficiencies when defenses would exploit that. And so now he's out. Now, if I'm a Texans fan, I'm a little concerned because you go and basically do the same thing where you go and get a young offensive mind with no play calling experience. And Nick Caley was the tight ends coach in the Rams organization. Now, doesn't mean that he didn't help with game planning. A lot of times with Sean McVay, his tight ends coach is responsible for third down package planning and things like that. So yes, this guy's involved in game planning, but he has not been in the heat of the moment looking and basically the chess match that is calling an offensive game. Also, he's never worked directly with quarterbacks and had to develop a young guy. So if I'm D'Amico Ryans, I would like to have found a veteran guy to maybe kind of help CJ Stroud take the next step. So this guy is not learning on the fly because that's what a lot of this is going to be doing. It's going to be because, D'Amico Ryans is a defensive guy. He's not going to be mentoring Nick Caley. He can add some little insights and things like that. But, what do you do to help him take another step forward because he kind of regressed last year. And, the wide receiving core is very new because they've got a lot of injuries. Their offensive line has been revamped. But, they traded away Laramie Tunsil. So you lost one of the best left tackles in the game. That's just a really tall task for Nick Caley here. And so I think that in addition to, him not throwing, the big question is, who's going to be in his ear and how capable is he going to be?
Yeah, and looking at him play last year, right there was definitely a little bit of regression from him. It seemed like one, he wasn't seeing stuff open as easily, but he also got hit a lot of times from the quarterback position. And when you look at this new change, and we talked about it before the show, I'm like, it's the same person. Like what makes Nick Caley different than Bobby Slowick? Because even like I was, and you were saying, I'm like, dude, Bobby Slowick's that guy after he got CJ Stroud to throw for 4,372 yards and 27 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions in his rookie year. They regressed. Will this new scheme simplify things for him?
I don't know about simplifying. I think that there will be some carryover, some familiarity because it's from the Shanahan tree. Obviously, Bobby Slowick came from San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. Nick Caley's coming from Sean McVay, who was on the same staff under Mike Shanahan. So, basically Kyle taught and Mike taught Sean everything he knows, and now Sean has taught Nick Caley that. It's not like it's a more simplified system. And I don't know if CJ Stroud really needs simplicity. I think he needs to know how to react when a defense has all the film on you. They know what your weaknesses are. They know what your strengths are. They know how to take that away because these defensive coordinators get paid a lot of money too. They spend a lot of time figuring out how do we take this away from him. And then what do you do when they take it away? How do you react? And so that's what Bobby Slowick wasn't able to help CJ Stroud do. And I don't know if Nick Caley can. Maybe so. Maybe a different set of eyes. He's not as married to what they were doing, what Bobby Slowick was doing, and is able to change. But it's going to be different. It's going to be, similar language, similar verbiage, a little bit different because it's a different guy coming from a different organization. But I don't know, man. I'm just a little worried for him. And again, like I said, I would have preferred a veteran voice that had maybe had the track record of developing a quarterback rather than a guy doing it for the first time. Because look, if you don't get this right, you know, D'Amico Ryans and them, yes, everything has looked good for the first 2 years, but the window is short in the NFL.
All right, it's a new error down in Duval. Liam Cohn comes over from the Bucks. All eyes in Jacksonville will obviously be on quarterback Trevor Lawrence and getting the most out of the number 1 overall pick. What is your read on this Liam Cohn, Trevor Lawrence situation down in Jacksonville?
Yeah, he's got Liam Cohn comes to Jacksonville having helped Baker Mayfield deliver his best season yet as a pro. He has been in the Sean McVay organization and its coaching tree, and it's like Jacksonville kind of wanted a Rams East type of thing because they got James Gladwell from there, who was the assistant general manager. Now they got Liam Cohen. Number 1 priority is to help Trevor Lawrence live up to expectations. He had a rough rookie season with Urban Meyer. Then he showed promise in year 2 with Doug Peterson. Then he had some injuries, and things just really never progressed from there. They actually regressed, the next year after that. So here he is with another voice in his head, but he's got a guy that's got really strong communication skills, a guy that, is a good motivator. He's a good teacher. It's going to be interesting because Liam Cohen does not have a whole lot of NFL experience. He's been an NFL coach for 5 years. Obviously, he's got some coaching experience in the college ranks as well. And again, did well with Baker Mayfield. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. But it's just basically do or die mode now for Trevor Lawrence because, the clock has been ticking. And, we'll see how it plays out.
Can the Jaguars offense improve, though, its consistency in the new system? Because when you study Liam Cohen and offensive coordinator Grant Udinski coming over from the Minnesota Vikings, right, it's going to be interesting to see how both of the schemes fit together. And everything I've known from Liam Cohen and studying him, he does things that his quarterback does well. Like, he's not out there pushing stuff that Trevor Lawrence doesn't do well or anything like that. Do you see the consistency improving under him?
Yeah, well, the good thing is Grant Udinski comes from Kevin O'Connell, who came from Sean McVay before he went to Minnesota. So it's going to be very similar there, similar philosophies. And yes, they really strive to have a varied offense. That it's not just like, oh, hey, this is the one thing we're going to do, but they're like, hey, we want to have it varied so that way, okay, we'll figure out what this quarterback does well, and then we'll capitalize on that. We'll accentuate that and find ways to ease pressure on him. Look, they have a decent running game. We think that they're going to have an explosive weapon in Travis Hunter. We'll see.
How do you view Travis Hunter fitting in this system? Because I want to talk about him because I do personally believe he needs to play offense. I think he's more of an impact player in offense. You touch the ball more on offense. Probably going to play both ways. How do you see that fitting in?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I am curious how they're going to use him. I talked to a lot of people who felt like, look, he is a lockdown corner and a pretty good wide receiver. A couple of people said where you're really going to see him is maybe in the red zone or some field stretching, but they think that he's going to be able to make his presence felt. And so I think that Liam Cohen is just the perfect type of guy who has, he's coached wide receivers like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and he got a lot out of their rookie wide receivers last year. He's been with McVay, who they had to patch together wide receivers in the Rams that year that he was the offensive coordinator. So he's got a wide range in his short time of using different kinds of talents. And so I think that he'll have a lot of different ways to use Travis Hunter. And so it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I think they're going to be a couple fireworks a game offensively, and he's going to make some solid plays and be, tough as a defensive back as well.
All right, guys, Jags wrapped up their OTAs on Thursday, and that is a wrap for us as well. Mandatory minicamp starts next week. Stick with us for the latest scoop. Thank you so much for listening. For Mike Jones, I'm Chase Daniel. Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.